Hello everyone and welcome along to Radioaks, the show that takes a satirical look at news from home and abroad. This week, Pat, Ash or God help us, McGrath joins the Radioaks cast along with our regular star John Fitzgerald. Great news for Radioaks this week, especially if you're listening at work. This was a survey which made the news in Ireland on the subject of social media in the workplace. It seems that half of you are listening to Radioaks and the other half are busy at your job. You will spend 39 minutes a day listening to YouTube videos, flicking through Facebook and such. So, for the next 30 minutes or so, I invite you to listen to our entire Radioaks series. Just keep an eye out for the boss. Happy viewing! If you haven't heard of Hamish McHamish, then you will now. Hamish is the toast of the Scottish town of St Andrews. Hamish, a 14-year-old stray cat, has become the town's official mascot. The good citizens of St Andrews clubbed together £8,000 to have a statue of Hamish erected in the main street. Hamish attended the unveiling, arriving in style in the back of a convertible. Some say this was a scandalous waste of money. However, I feel it was perfectly acceptable. And Hamish agrees, no doubt. That's one lucky cat.
In scenes reminiscent of HBO's massive hit series Game of Thrones, the Irish public recently witnessed a failed power coup from within the Labour Party. The episode began when Eamon Gilmore, who was Hand of King Enda the U-turn, found himself the subject of a rebellion from within. His number one nominee for the European Parliament South Kingdom, Phil Prendergast, MEP, questioned his efficacy and called upon him to resign. In so doing, she also called upon shrill-voiced Joan Burton to seize power in an attempt to revive the failing Labour clan. This, however, came as a surprise to the helium-lunged Miss Burton, who stated that she was rather surprised by Miss Prendergast MEP's gauntlet dropping. One imagines that it would stick in the craw of Mr. Gilmore, who will still be required to drum up support for the rebellious Miss Prendergast MEP in the upcoming European elections. Perhaps, if this were an episode of Game of Thrones, author George R.R. Martin would make sure she would not make it to Season 5. This is Pat McGrath, the Asher God Help Us correspondent, Radioaks.
Ireland's Casey Smith and her song Heartbeat failed to progress to the Eurovision Song Contest final. Casey is nothing to be disappointed about, having at least reached the semi-final in the competition. The fact that there were no other preliminary rounds detracts from her efforts not a jot. The Eurovision, you see, is undoubtedly rigged, as even the worst singer on the night finished ahead of Casey. Conchita Wurst, the bearded drag queen representing Austria, reached the finals, leaving Irish people everywhere wondering what might have been if Casey had turned up on the night with sideburns and meggle, a la Ming Flanagan. At present, Ming Flanagan, an Irish TD, is seeking election to the European Parliament. And if a little more thought had been voiced in this singing competition, then pot-smoking and bearded Ming could have represented our best hopes of a Eurovision success, and also as a byproduct gained automatic entry to the European Parliament to boot. His singing may not be the worst, but he sure looks like the Austrian drag artist. And what about that other singer, Rolf Octopus Harris, who seems to have spent most of his time, when not talking and telling us stories about two little boys, putting his didgeridoo about? If he could only have tied his didgeridoo down, sport, then Rolf Harris may not have ended up as Rolf Harassment. This is John for Radioaks.
That's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll leave you with some behind the scenes outtakes.
Perhaps if this were written were an episode. Oh God, no! Take 3.
Later in the show, our roving comic writer. Sorry. This, sorry. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Okay.